choose from me and choose from Jeff. Make your own list of your own top 12, 15, top 20. Why limit it to 12? Why limit it to 12 when you can do more? Coach Greg, and what are the 12 most effective exercises for building muscles? The ones that you must have in your training program. And by must, I mean, of course, that you should have if you can in fact do them. Well, in today's video, I'm going over Jeff Cavalier's top 12 exercises that everyone should have in their program. Going to compare his list to mine, see where we differ, and give you a better understanding of what exactly should you be doing in the gym to maximize your gains. And I should preface this by pointing out that obviously it depends on your goals. If you're trying to have the best sex, then, well, maybe you need to have Kegel exercises. Maybe that's important to you. If your heart is the most important muscle that you're trying to work out, then perhaps you should be doing circuit training, shorter rest between sets, and harder, longer exercises. And if it's strength, well, obviously you're going to be doing the powerlifting movements. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to talk about hypertrophy, building muscle to get the most jacked and aesthetic physique.
So it figures we start with the king of all lower body exercises, the squat.
And first on his list, squat. Check. Had that on my list, and he's quick to point out, try to do a variation of the squat that you can do. Not everyone can do the squat. You may be injured, unable to do this movement. Maybe you don't have the proper equipment. But of course, try to do one variation of the squat if your goal is to maximize leg muscle development.
And there's no better exercise for hitting the posterior chain than the deadlift.
And number 2, deadlift. Check. Again, 100% agree with Jeff Cavalier, and if you can't perform a regular conventional deadlift, try to do a variation of this. He suggests if you have lower back injuries to do so a few inches from the floor. You could also use a trap bar deadlift, or also, why not try the sumo deadlift? There is a variation that most people can do for the deadlift. I have tons of clients who hire me who can't perform a regular deadlift due to lower back injuries and so on, but most of them are able to do a sumo deadlift or some other variation.
We've got the squats and the deadlifts already, so now it's time for the bench press.
And number 3, the bench press. How could you have a list without the bench press? Squat, bench, and deadlifts, check. 100% agree. And in case you're wondering, it doesn't have to be with a barbell. You can do the bench press with a different variation. Use dumbbells, use an incline, but please try to do some variation of the bench press.
And so with the dead ringers out of the way, now we get to my personal preferences. And you're not going to find an athleanX program that doesn't include this next exercise, and it's the pull-up.
And number 4, the pull-up, and I do agree this is an amazing exercise. It's a must-do exercise. However, if you're not strong enough to do a pull-up, please do a variation of it. An assisted pull-up or a lat pull-down, same friggin' thing. You don't have to stand there and do free weight pull-ups in order to build your lats. There is nothing wrong with using a machine, so whatever you do one form of variation of the pull-up.
The face pull is one of my favorite exercises, once again for the posterior chain, but this time for the upper body.
And exercise number 5, the face pull. This one, it's not in my top 12, but obviously Jeff feels very strongly about this. It's okay to have differences of opinion, but this one did not make my top 12. And why? It just doesn't build that much muscle. I don't think it's one of the ideal exercises. I'm not saying it's bad and that you shouldn't do it. In fact, do it. But for me, it just doesn't make the top 12 when there's other exercises that I would prefer to have over this.
See, I'm a big believer in the corrective exercises, and especially those that train external rotation of the shoulder.
And number 6, external rotations for the rotator cuff. It's not in my top 12. I'm talking about which exercises we need to build muscle. Remember at the start I said, if you want to be a sex worker, maybe Kegels is the number 1 exercise? Well, Kegels, although effective, are not building a ton of muscle. They might be good for the sex worker, but you don't need them to build a jack physique. And you need to do external rotations, rotator cuff. I'm not saying you shouldn't do them, but if your goal is just to build muscle and you could only pick 12 exercises for the rest of your life, certainly wouldn't recommend this as being one of them.
And for me, this is a no-brainer. It's got to be the lunge, or at least some variation of the lunge.
And number 7, the lunge, unfortunately didn't make my top 12 list. I will add the list of exercises that made my list and are different than Jeff's at the end. I'm not saying it's a bad exercise. In fact, it's a very good one. It just didn't make my top 12.
And so the inclusion of exercise number 8 here was not meant to push anybody's buttons or ruffle any feathers. It's just simply to put an exercise in here that belongs on the list, and it's the push-up.
And number 8, the push-up. No, it's not in my top 12 of the most effective exercise to build muscle in the chest, shoulders, and triceps. It's good. I don't think it's as good as the bench press, so why would I add it to the bench press? If you're already doing the bench press and several variations, this could in fact be one of those variations. A push-up is the same thing technically as a bench press, except you're laying the other way, and it's a lot easier. I can do hundreds of push-ups, and Jeff's saying, well, just make it harder. Well, do I have to find 2 people to sit on my back to do a push-up to build muscle? I'd much rather see on this list an incline bench press or perhaps a machine where the handles come closer together at the top. Any machine where you start outwards and push together at the top. You can see this list of exercises in my 3 best, 3 worst exercises for the chest. I've gone through most of the body parts, said what are the 3 best exercises for each of those body parts, and so if you're compiling a list of your top 12, they most certainly should come from those lists.
And when we're talking about pressing exercises, we've hit our horizontal press option, but what about our vertical plane? Because that's important too. And for me, there's no other option than the overhead press.
And number 9, the overhead press for the shoulders. Hard to top this one. I definitely would have that in my top 12. And if you can't do it with a barbell, perhaps it hurts or you're injured, maybe you can do it with a dumbbell. You can either do it seated or standing, but some variation of pressing a bar or dumbbell overhead is certainly going to build the shoulders optimally.
I'm going right for the triceps now, the bigger part of our arm, and we're talking about the lying tricep extension.
I see this as technically being like a skull crusher. He's laying down on a bench and pressing upwards. That is the same motion as you do when you're doing a skull crusher. And I do recommend when you're doing your skull crushers to lower the bar behind the head, not to your skull. You don't want to crush your skull. You can do it with dumbbells, barbells, and easy bar, but please, that motion is definitely an excellent way to build the triceps. If you can't do that, highly recommend doing tricep press downs. If you do one of these tricep focused exercises in addition to the bench press and the overhead press, you can't help but develop a well-rounded, balanced arm and physique.
And for me, it doesn't have to be complicated. As a matter of fact, when it comes to bicep training, there really is nothing complicated because we're talking about a simple hinge joint up and down. For me, the barbell curl is going to be my choice.
And number 10, exactly as I would have had it, the standing barbell curls with cheating. He even says it allows you to cheat and work extra heavy loads. So 100% agree, bang on. Why would you omit a bicep focused exercise? Who doesn't want to have developed, peaked, and jacked looking biceps? And so you certainly want to have a bicep focused exercise in addition to your back exercises, as your biceps are working secondarily during your back pulling movements. And look at Jeff Cavalier's 100% natural physique as he's doing these curls into his 40s. Is that not impressive? Look at the striations, the veins in this guy's physique. 100% natural. Congrats to Jeff Cavalier for doing such amazingly well.
And last but certainly not least, when it comes to the exercise selections, guys, you're going to have some variation of a barbell row in your plan.
And number 12, the barbell row, almost the same as what I had. I had the seated row, but hey, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter!
What matters is that you're rowing and pulling the weight to your stomach. And so this is a great finishing exercise to his list of his top 12. And now that we know his top 12, what was he missing? Did you notice he didn't have a single abs exercise? I agree with that. I don't think you need to train your abs. They're doing all these exercises. The abs, the core, it's still going to get worked. You don't need a dedicated ab exercise. If you want to train abs, go ahead. But we're narrowing down the top 12 most effective exercises to build a jacked and aesthetic physique. But here's what he's missing. Calves. We didn't have one single exercise to train the calves. And even if you're competing in men's physique board shorts, you can still see the calves. So I do recommend you train all the different body parts. The calves is a visual one. Anyone that's wearing shorts, you're going to see the calves. So I don't think we should completely neglect them. My favorite calf exercise, the donkey calf raise. To me, that is the best, most effective exercise you can do for your calves. And what else would I have? Well, in my experience, it's all about the delts. How many people are going to debate me? I've done videos about this. What body part makes the most difference? The delts. So you really want to focus on the width of your delts. And to me, to get that extra width, you got to do the side lateral. The side laterals is an exercise I do every single shoulder workout. And rather than the face pulls, I would prefer the reverse pec deck. I would like some variation where we're training the rear delt maximally. The front delt, I say stay away from that. We don't need to do front raises like the bushwhackers. You will get more than enough front delt activation when training the bench press and the overhead press, so we can leave it alone. But we want to focus more on the side delt and the rear delt. Get that massive cap delt. You'll look like plates for dates, more freaking delts than last time. And coupled with the small waist, the wide delts, giving that silhouette, that is the physique that most people find impressive. And the last two exercises, this is a toss-up. Do you have well-developed quads? Then skip out the leg press or leg extensions. If you don't have well-developed hamstrings, we'll do the glute ham raise or hamstring curls. Choose one. It's so difficult to pick a top 12. For me, I would pick the leg press over the leg extensions to really burn out those quads. I'd rather do a more compound movement like the leg press than the leg extensions. And for hamstrings to really get that burn, the most difficult exercise I can think of, the glute ham raise. That rounds up my top 12, top 13, whatever. Choose from me and choose from Jeff. Make your own list of your own top 12, 15, top 20. Why limit it to 12? Why limit it to 12 when you can do more? Don't forget to train harder than last time, which means to progressive overload, have realistic goals and expectations, and keep on your journey to success. Ending it here. GregDoucette.com for coaching, Greg Doucette IP Pro. Please watch the bloops. Also, harder than last time supplements, including turkesterone. You can get those by clicking the link in the description. Cookbooks, training books, coaching plans by me and my team. We do these things. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment for the algorithm. And until next time, I'm out.